What is up, y'all? Schrodinger back with another video, and this week continuing on with part 2 of my post Pacific Crest Trail and Arizona Trail gear review. I'm going to be talking about everything I used for my sleep system. So that's my shelter, my sleeping pad, and my quilts or sleeping bags. If you've never heard of like the big four of hiking, your big four are your packs, which I covered in the last video, and then shelter, sleeping pad, sleeping bag. So this will finish up my coverage of like my hiking big four that I used this year. You can see I got it all laid out in front of me. And this was one that was pretty steady, pretty static throughout my hikes. I mean, I didn't really buy any new gear, sort of, which I'll get into that. Everything was anything that I switched was kind of planned already. And yeah, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get into it. I think I'm gonna start with my quilts first, so I'll get everything else out of the way, and we'll get to talking about the two quilts that I use for my hike. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is the two sleeping bags, or the quilts that I used actually, if you want to be technical about it. So I used a warmer, kind of winter, colder weather quilt that I used probably really for the majority of the time on my two hikes, and then I used my cooler kind of summer quilt that was, I think, is probably one of my favorite pieces of gear that I have. I'm gonna use it on every hike, but the only thing is its use is kind of limited because you only get maybe two, maybe 3 months of use out of it on any hikes, because a lot of times you just don't quite get the warmer weather. But anyway, talk about these two quilts. So the first one I'll talk about is my winter quilt, my warmer one. So this is from Enlightened Equipment. I believe it is called the Apex. I'm not 100% sure, and I don't really want to say that this is the quilt to use, because Enlightened Equipment is very helpful. They have like a quiz on their website where you can go on, take it, and kind of explain how you sleep, how tall you are, I think how much you weigh, what the temperatures are likely to be like, how you sleep, if you're warm or cold sleeper, and they'll recommend you a quilt, or a quilt. I don't think they do sleeping bags, not sure, but they'll recommend you something that you can use that kind of fits you based on your answers to that quiz. So when I took the quiz, I'm pretty sure I got recommended the Apex, and some of the specs about it. It's a 30-degree down insulation sleeping bag. It has a zippered foot box, so you can see I can open this up and change it whether I want it to be like an actual quilt, or if I want it to have the enclosed foot box. And then it has this nice kind of cord cinch on the feet to really close everything up, which gives you various amounts of breathability. It's nice for that reason. I thought I would need a lot more because, like I said, I'm a very warm sleeper, and it's I'm a warm sleeper, so a lot of times like if my feet get too hot and I really can't sleep, so I was like, well, I want something with a little bit more adjustability, where I can kind of change, kind of the air that I'm getting and stuff. Ended up that I didn't really need it. I would have rather had the closed foot box the whole time. Just kind of lessons to learn, and yeah, that's kind of how it ended up. So another couple of other features about the Enlightened Equipment quilts. So they have these little clips on them. If I can get it undone, they're a little difficult to do. There we go. So these little clips that are on here, so you can either, if like you need a little bit more like kind of hug to your body, and it's a windy night and you're getting wind like cutting underneath your quilt, you can actually put these together and just very easily clip them together, and that will basically turn into a sleeping bag instead of having a quilt. So you'll be completely wrapped in the quilt, and you'll have a little bit better insulation. Another thing about these is that these clips, when you buy the quilt, it will come with straps, like these little elastic bands that you can clip onto these and then tuck it underneath your sleeping pad, and and it'll be do the same thing, but you'll have like a little bit more space instead of being crunched up in what's supposed to be a quilt and is now a sleeping bag. And you'll have a little bit more room to move. It won't slide off your sleep. It won't slide off your sleeping pad. You won't slide off your sleeping pad because you got something holding you to it. And yeah, it comes really nice. I didn't really think I would need them. I never really needed them or thought I needed them when I was out on the trail. I managed without. But if that's your thing, it does come with that. There are a lot of videos out there that show it. I don't have them on me. I think I threw them away right away. So yeah, I can't really show that aspect of it because I wasn't prepared for this, but yeah, that is an option that you have whenever you buy these quilts, and it is a really nice option. I imagine it would be a really nice option, I should say, just because I never used it. But a couple of things. For my next hike, I will be switching away from the 30-degree down. I'll probably still be going with Enlightened equipment because I did like this quilt. I thought it was very, very high quality, very well made. But I'm going to be switching to a synthetic insulation bag just because when down is good, it's really good. It's amazing. But when it's bad, it's terrible. It is horrible. Yeah, I had a rainy night on the Arizona Trail. If you watch my Arizona Trail hike in the second half, and I was pretty miserable. I was almost at the end. I only had like 120 miles left. But I think if I would have had like more, I don't believe I would have continued my hike. It was not a good time. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, so I'll be switching to synthetic insulation. Then I'm probably going to go to a 40-degree bag. Because with the 30, I never really got cold. I never even thought about getting cold while I was using it. So yeah, I think I'm just going to switch to the 40-degree just to like save some weight, save some space, and get something that fits me a little better. I hope it'll work. It's kind of roll the dice going for like a warmer temp on your sleeping bag or your quilt, and it makes it a little tough to kind of, when you mess up there, you have a very bad time. Trust me, I've done it, and it's the worst. It's even worse than getting cold and wet because, like especially if you're out like for 3, 4, 5 days, that like that's your life now, and you're stuck, and it's gonna be miserable for those 3 days. And there's not, yeah, it's pretty rough. But I think a 40-degree bag will work fine for me. Like I said, I do sleep very warm, and with some of the I always have like some type of insulated jacket, whether it's a fleece or a puffy, to kind of help with the insulation there. So yeah, I'll be switching to a 40-degree synthetic, most likely from Enlightened equipment, and I'll be getting a fully enclosed foot box because super annoying. Don't want to deal with it again. Yeah, just totally closed foot box. So I believe that is everything about the Enlightened equipment quilt. Definitely would recommend like checking out their website. They're a little pricey. If it's within your price range, they're very much worth it. Very well made quilts. A lot of features, and definitely recommend. But just switch over, get this out of the way real quick, and we'll go to my probably personal favorite piece of gear just ever. I love this thing. Is the Big Agnes Kings Canyon Ultralight quilt. So this is my warm weather quilt. Kind of the story about how I got this. When I was on the AT, I walked into a gear store right around the third of the waypoint. I walked in, I said, I was like, I was getting into summer, it was getting pretty warm, and I told the guy, I was like, hey, I want something that I can cover up with that'll make it feel like I have a blanket on, but will provide me zero insulation. And he was like, I got just the thing for you. And that's the Kings Canyon Ultralight from Big Agnes. There's like zero insulation in this thing. You have to be a warm sleeper, even on like warm nights. It doesn't have a temperature rating. It's just warm weather. It's not like 60, it's like, whatever you can stand. But I have used this down to like 30 degrees and was comfortable. Comfortable is the stretch of the word. And I used it down to around 15 degrees and survived. only survived there. There was no comfort, there was very little sleep, there was only me struggling to live. But I did live because I'm here making this video. But for warm weather, I think it's awesome. Super lightweight, packs down super small. It is synthetic insulation, so even when it gets wet, you'll go from your zero insulation that it was before to zero insulation after. So that's nice. But yeah, I definitely don't want to like sound like I'm ragging on this quilt. I do really love it. Like I said, it is probably my favorite piece of gear. Just because of it, like, it's what I need. So some of the features that it provides, again, you have these little buttons on the bottom instead of the clips, that these will go together and turn it into essentially a sleeping bag. It is tiny. I've done this before on like colder nights like the night where it was 15 degrees, and yeah, it's very small. I am 6'1", 200 pounds, usually right around there, and not enough space for me to really do it, except for like maybe 2 buttons at the top because it widens out. But if you're a smaller person, then it'll be perfect. Yeah, another thing that these do is you have 2 of these like flaps on it. On this side there's 2 different types of buttons. Well, when you buy these, it comes with little like sticky pads that you can put along your sleeping pad, and then use these flaps and kind of again button it to your sleeping pad. And again, kind of same thing with the straps on the Enlighten Equipment quilt. It'll hold it in place, hold it down, keep some wind from coming in, and give you just a little bit more protection. I don't think they work that well, especially I move around a bit when I'm sleeping, and yeah, I just kind of popped all the buttons off the one time I tried with like 2 or 3 of the little, it's like I think 2 sets of the little squares, and I tried it out. And yeah, I just didn't break the buttons, but just kind of popped them off as I moved in my sleep. And, results may vary. If you don't move a lot, then it might work for you. It just didn't for me. It does have a very small foot box, which is nice, totally enclosed, but it will give you a little bit of protection for your feet and kind of help you hold it on your feet so it's not, running up and only covering up like your knees or just your chest. Yeah. Very bare bones, very basic quilt, not a lot of flair to it. Just the clips and stuff. And, if you're a warm sleeper and you're looking for something in the summer or even into like early fall, if you're like really warm sleeper, definitely recommend this. Packs down super well, very light. Don't know exactly how much it weighs, probably like just over a pound if I remember right. But yeah, this thing is, really enjoy this quilt. It's super comfortable. Has, even though it doesn't have a temperature rating, it does give you a lot more insulation than you expect. So yeah, definitely, again, highly recommend it. Like I said, one of my favorite pieces of gear. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the sleeping bags and quilts. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the sleeping pads up here, and we'll get to talking about those. Alright y'all, so let's talk about the sleeping pads that I use. So I technically sort of use 2 different ones, but they're the exact same ish. They're the same sleeping pad, there's different sizes. So my first one that I used, the normal one, is the regular size, the 20 inch by 72 inch. So this is just a normal size sleeping pad. And the second one I used is a 20 inch by 48 inch. So this is the hip length sleeping pad. The reason I switched and kind of wanted to try it is it saves 6 or 8 ounces, I think 6 ounces. And I hiked with a friend, Torch. He was like 6'3" or 6'4", and he used a hip length sleeping pad. He uses like the 48 inch sleeping pad. And he was like, oh yeah, it's like super comfortable and I've never had any problems with it. So I figured I'd try it out, see how it is. I'll be honest, I'm not a fan. It wasn't very comfortable. I definitely missed out on some sleep and some comfort. just because you're kind of locked into like one way of sleeping, and that's curled up, which, I didn't really like. You can kind of stretch out if, I don't know, maybe you're a little hardier than I am, but it just, like, stretching out, and especially like being on my stomach, I can't sleep on my back. I'm like stomach or sides. So being on my stomach, it would like hurt my knees because they kind of be, just weight, resting on them extended. And it just wasn't comfortable for me. So I'll be going away from the 20 by 48 and sticking with the regular size pad. But this is, both of these are the Big Agnes Insulated Aircore Ultra. So this is a very, very budget friendly, very nice, very warm, very comfortable sleeping pad that I can't recommend enough. Very durable as well. So this one, you can see a little bit more use on it. Definitely has a little bit of stain still, and I think this is actually the clean side. So it's pretty dirty at this point, but I did get 3,000 miles out of it. 3,000. I've known people who spent $200-$300 on a sleeping pad because it had a good R value and it's ultralight and all this stuff, and it lasts them 400 miles. This was $80. $80, that's it. And lasted me 3,000 miles. It has a 5.0 R value, which is one of the highest I've seen, especially for like a 3 season, especially being $80. Like, I can't say this enough. $80. Yeah, it's super comfortable. I sleep better on the full length sleeping pad. It's sometimes better than like the hotels I was staying in, or if it was like a Trail Angel on their couch. I slept better on this than I did in some beds. That's how comfortable it is. And with the 5.0 R value, it's very warm. You're really not going to get cold, especially coming from the ground. It's just, I don't have enough good to say about these, well, both of these sleeping pads, whichever one, if you decide to try them. But yeah, it's like, to me, it's like the perfect sleeping pad to start out with, because you can't go wrong. You have great insulation. If you end up not liking it, then you're out $80 plus tax and shipping. So maybe $90, 95, like at the most. So you're not really losing, you're not risking a lot. It's going to be durable. And I'm not even like a princess about where I'm setting up. I sleep in a bivvy, which we'll see in a second. So I set up wherever I can. I don't like take a bunch of time to sweep it off. I don't even have a Tyvek that I put underneath everything. It's just bivvy and then sleeping pad, and it's still lasting me 3,000 miles. It's super durable. And you might think, well, what's the downside? It's got to be super heavy. It's probably like 2.5 pounds. This one, the 20 by 72, is 20 ounces. So if I remember right, I think I looked at like some of the crazy ultralight ones, and they're like 14 or 16 ounces. So you don't even save a half pound. You're risking 2,500 miles of hiking, more that you can get out of this potentially than some of the super expensive ones, which, isn't all the time, but I definitely saw some people had that happen. And yeah, and it's $120 plus cheaper, sometimes up to $200 cheaper for this very basic, very simple sleeping pad. That again, I just can't say enough good about. Super comfortable, very insulating. I'm not sponsored, by the way. I know I've really hyped up Big Agnes for these last two. I wish they would, but I just think they make very good products, especially these sleeping pads. And if you want to go like a little bit lighter and try something from Big Agnes, based on my success with this, or if you try it and you have success with it, they do have some like more expensive, lighter weight, but again, you're saving 2-4 ounces. It's not going to make that big of a difference, and you're getting everything you need and more from this sleeping pad. So yeah, I can't recommend it enough. It's incredible how comfortable I was and how well everything worked, you know. Even in the desert where every plant is trying to stab you, every rock is incredibly sharp, it still held up. Both of them held up. You know, this one only 450 miles, but they both held up very well. Never had any issues with them. And yeah, I again can't say enough good about them. It's a sleeping pad, so it's very simple. So I definitely am repeating myself quite a bit, but that should show, like, I'm just trying to reiterate how awesome these sleeping pads are and how perfect they are. If you're just, you know, maybe you've never used an inflatable sleeping pad, maybe you were always nervous about them, always wary. Try this out. Just this is your go-to to try out, because again, you're not going to lose a lot of money, and I can't recommend it enough. I don't think you can go wrong with this sleeping pad, unless you're like some crazy super ultra mega light, and if that's the case, you need to relax. There's better things to worry about, and 6 ounces isn't likely to change the course of your hike. So yeah, definitely recommend these pads in whatever size. So they do have like 5 different sizes, I think, that you can definitely give a try, and you will have, I can almost guarantee you'll have success with them. That confident. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, very simple. Blow them up, lay on them. Not much to talk about. Not many features. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for these. So go ahead and get these off the table and move over to the shelter that I used. My bivvy that I used for the whole time, and get to talking about that. All right, y'all. So this is a shelter that I used for the whole almost 3,500 miles that I hiked this year. This is the Outdoor Research Helium Bivvy. So if you aren't familiar with a bivvy or a bivouac sack, it's essentially a body bag that you can sleep in. Especially this one. Some of them they make like kind of like a bug net bivvy. You know, different styles. This one is, essentially just like a plastic bag, basically just a very durable plastic bag. It is fully waterproof. It is completely not breathable in the slightest. There are actually warning signs on the inside that say, like, don't zip this up all the way because you can suffocate. So that is a big tip for using a bivvy. Always, like any bivvy really, is always leave some type of crack in your zipper, so that way you do get a little bit of airflow, not only so you don't die, but also to limit your condensation a little bit, slow that down. If you watch some of my hikes, you know, a couple of nights I had some big problems with condensation. And yeah, it's less than fun, especially when you're sleeping with down, or you have kind of some extra stuff that you're keeping in there. It ends up being not that enjoyable. So this one does have a small bug net. Let me see if I can kind of unfold it to show this off. Yeah, so it does have a bug net, which this is the head, and this is this is all you get. This is your full bug net, and then you can kind of lay it over. It does still cause a lot of condensation if you have it closed up, but it does slow it down just a little bit. I will say that it does help just a tiny bit. And yeah, on top of the bug net, you can also just completely bring the whole thing over and totally enclose yourself in if it's raining or something, which, you know, it's kind of, it gets the job done. That's what I'll say about really any bivvy, is that it gets the job done. You're not living in luxury. You're not really comfortable. When you're totally enclosed, you probably won't. You're not going to be enjoying it. I definitely kind of use this as like a modified, a little bit more protected cowboy camp system. And that, yeah, like I said, it got the job done. Another thing, it does come with this foldable pole that you can fit in it. It, you know, unfolds out and then fits kind of in the head, so it does keep it like off your face a little bit. But that's your tiny bit of comfort if you are closed in it, and it's not much, you know. Yeah, the bivy is. I don't really know how to put this. It would take a special type of person to really enjoy using this. I didn't enjoy it. Yeah, like I said, was mostly just kind of modified cowboy camping. Doesn't do that well in the rain, especially towards the end. I think some of my seam sealant kind of wore off, and then the seams were leaking. So again, like on the Arizona Trail, I had a pretty miserable night. You know, I was talking about why I'm switching away from down. This kind of contributed to it because, you know, everything I had got soaked and I did not have a good time. And yeah, the bivy I think was a big contributing factor. If I had had a like real tent, I might have been a little bit more comfortable. But yeah, that's one thing. Like if you are going to use the bivy, definitely recommend synthetic. Definitely, I mean, you can do whatever you want, but I would not say that you should use down. Definitely a mistake that I made. But yeah, your condensation's so bad, and you don't really have any room, and the condensation's not going to go anywhere but, you know, on your quilt or your sleeping pad. So yeah, it just won't be that comfortable. So definitely use synthetic if you're going to use a bivy. Another thing is, I always thought that, kind of had the idea in my head that the bivy like gave you about 5 more degrees of insulation, just because it's not breathable. You know, it's keeping all of your body heat, your moisture, it's keeping it in. But the thing is, I kind of noticed this later on. When it's warm, it'll add 5 degrees. When it's cold, it'll take off 5 degrees, because the bivy, like the outside of the bivy, will push against you and kind of lay on top of you. So then that you don't get an air barrier as much. You know, you're just like the outside of the bivy is cold, it's touching the cold air, and then that's kind of pushing through or on either onto or kind of almost through your insulation in your quilt, and makes it even colder. So again, like the bivy is very specialized in kind of what it's good at. But that, you know, I feel like I presented a lot of cons here. There are some pros to it. Super easy to set up. That is actually why I switched to it, and it's very simple. I mean, you just throw it out if you want to. You throw this in. It takes you less than a minute, and you have your shelter set up, and it's ready to go. I didn't carry any tent stakes because I figured if I ever needed them, I could just set something on top of it and it wouldn't blow away. Yeah, didn't even have tent stakes. Didn't even think about using them. Never needed them. So that, you know, that's a nice thing. You save a little bit of weight there. Another good thing is that you can set up anywhere, absolutely anywhere. I mean, unless it's like a slope, but there was nights where, there's no way any other shelter could have set up there, or set up in the spot that I was at, and I was able to set there. I mean, you can set up, you can set up right next to other people's tents. You can set up like, I was like on a ridge line, and there was really only enough width for like a sleeping pad in this small little like flattened out area, where it was either cowboy camp, but it was super windy that night, so cowboy camping would be miserable. But the bivy came through, and I was able to set up there, and it's able to block the wind, which brings me to another thing that it's good at. And if it's windy, the bivy is the best shelter, indisputably in my mind. Because, especially like your trekking pole tents are just going to blow over so fast, because they're not super like durable. Freestanding tent is like, will kind of hold up, but if it's super windy, you can actually break your poles. And it'll just end up being a terrible night, and you're going to have an even worse time because now your poles are broken. But the bivy, I've never had any issues with wind. It would be super windy. I mean, people were like getting up and leaving at 3 a.m. because they're like, I just can't sleep. And the only reason I woke up is because they got up and were like, hey, are you leaving? Or, I would like hear them moving around, and I'm sleeping like a baby, just tucked into my bivy, and I don't even feel the wind. I just hear the wind, and it's just kind of lulling me to sleep because it gives me a little bit of white noise. So that is some good. There is some good to the bivy. It's not just like a miserable time, but there is a lot of expectations, like of like where it's going to be tough. You know, you have zero space, so you really can't move around. You're not going to be cooking inside your bivy. If you manage that, props to you. I was able to like cold soak in it a couple times, but that's the best you're going to do. You barely even have room to eat it once you get into it, especially this one or like any smaller bivy like this. So you're not even really going to eat your food inside the bivy. You can't get dressed in the morning, which is annoying. You have zero privacy. There's just a lot of bad for like the little bit of good that comes with it, but you know, if it works for you, it works for you. It worked for me for, I mean, how long have I been using this? 4,000 miles. And I managed it, but after 4,000 miles of using it, I'm kind of over it and I want to be a little bit more comfortable. Going to switch over to a tent. I still haven't decided which one. More than likely going to be a freestanding tent, just because I don't like trekking pole tents. I think they're stupid. That's a whole video in and of itself, I think. But yeah, so I'll probably be switching over to a freestanding tent, getting away from the bivy. But probably, I'm sure I'll break it out on like some shorter hikes and stuff, but just for a through hike day in and day out, being stuck in a body bag every night, it's pretty miserable. So yeah, gonna switch away from it, but there is a little bit of good to the bad that comes with using a bivy. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the bivy. So, all right, y'all. So that finishes up the rest of my big four and like my whole sleep system. So hope you enjoyed it. And there's one thing I was forgetting. So I wanted to talk about the pillow that I use. So unfortunately, I got a hole in it towards the end of the PCT. Didn't repair it right. Didn't work. Ended up throwing it away. But I will try to put a picture somewhere on the screen of the Nemo Pillow Elite pillow that I use. So I've used quite a few different hiking pillows. Can never really find one that like I really liked and that was like a decent price and that held up. You know, I think I've used like 5 different ones. But the Nemo Pillow Elite, best pillow ever. Almost better than like some pillows I've used in like, again, like a hotel or in my home even, where they're not as comfortable. And yeah, just this little hiking pillow is even better. It's the perks to it, and like what I was actually looking for a pillow like this is that it's inflatable, but it has a small, like, I think it's down insulation covering on it. That gives you just a little bit of insulation and just a little bit of cushion for your head, so you sleep a little bit better. I think that's where a lot of hiking pillows kind of fall short in how they work, where they're just, you know, it's like, I don't want to say just plastic, but it's like just a thin coating of something that's a little bit softer, like a felt-ish feeling, and it just ends up being very uncomfortable. But yeah, Nemo Pillow Elite, the pillow that I used, awesome pillow, super comfortable. Yeah, and then I'll put the link to it in the description along with everything else that I have. It'll all be links in the description on where you can find it, where you can buy it if you do decide that you want to go and buy some of the gear that I use and some of the gear that I just reviewed. So yeah, that's everything, that covers like my whole sleep system that I used, and that's it for the video. I really do. If you made it this far into the video, I really appreciate you watching. This is kind of why this is why I do it, is, even though I still have a small following, I do really appreciate the people that watch, and I hope, if you do watch, maybe I swayed you one way or another to maybe go a certain way for some type of gear that you were looking for, or convinced you that what I was using wasn't good enough, so you want to use something else. I don't think my way is always the right way. I think hiking's all about doing whatever you want. So do whatever you want. I just want to provide information on what I did use and help you in your journey to find the perfect gear like I've fortunately found, and gotten to the point where it seems like I can solidify what I'm using and not be spending outrageous amounts of money on all my hiking gear that I use. So if you enjoyed it, or you did get some information out of this video, I would appreciate leaving a like, and just very simple, just hit one button and leave a like. If you didn't like it, do whatever you want. You can dislike it, or you can leave a comment, tell me what I'm doing wrong, or if you liked it, leave a comment, tell me what I'm doing right. And if you've been watching a couple of my videos and you just kind of like what I'm, like the videos that I'm putting out, feel free to subscribe. Again, do whatever you want. I don't care if you do any of this. I don't care if you do none of it. It makes no difference to me. I'll still make videos. I'll still be happy doing it. I'll still be happy with just a few people that do watch my videos at this point. But yeah, that is pretty much it. So 2 weeks from now, next video that'll be coming out. I'll probably just be doing my clothes. Yeah, I don't really plan these. I'm sure that's obvious. But I kind of just wing it every time I make a video. A vague idea of what I'm going to do, and then I just kind of send it. I think next week I'll just be going over all the different clothes that I used, and then either will be a part 4 with kind of my miscellaneous gear. So that's kind of my plan at the moment. If you enjoyed this video, I did have the last video, which I'll link that in the description as well, where I talk about my packs, and the next video more than likely just be about the clothes that I used. So again, thank you for watching. Hope everybody has an amazing day, and I hope you keep watching the videos, and I hope I can provide you with some information to help you out. So thanks for watching.